All right, hello and welcome to another webinar by AOU. Today's going to be a workshop. So you want to be an entrepreneur, and we're going to consider three factors to consider before starting your business. Housekeeping rules before we start. You may send your questions at any time during the presentation. We'll collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. Next is, during the session, feel free to share your thoughts on what we are discussing, and note that your chat is private and will only be visible to the host. And lastly, in the session, we may need we may spend some time reflecting. It is recommended that you note them down on paper or on your phone for future references. My name is Savannah Olo. For those of you who don't know me, I am a third-year computing student at the African Leadership College in Mauritius. And today our guest is the managing partner of the Strategies Company, a business advisory firm that helps growth businesses navigate through the messy middle. I hope you can explain that further. The messy middle is a period during which businesses struggle to build structures and implement processes to handle the chaos brought by rapid growth. So I hope our guest is able to elaborate that further once we're done introducing him. Maybe he can tell us more about himself and something we can find on the internet about him. Welcome, Wale.
Hi, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So let me just say a little bit about myself. I'll talk about the messy middle too, right?
Right,
so basically, let me introduce myself first, and I'll talk about the messy middle, just to kick us off. So my name is Wale Adisa. I am the managing partner of the Strategies Company, just like Savannah has already alluded to. Prior to this, let me tell you a little bit about what I did before the Strategies Company. I was the CEO of a company called Courier Plus, which is a courier business, a national courier business here in Nigeria. Before that, I was both operations and business development director for Conga Online, which is an online shopping platform here in Nigeria, and I was chief operating officer in an investment bank prior to that. And so all of these things, I think, just brought it to bear in what I do now, which is advising businesses, helping businesses who are growing rapidly. So what happens a lot is when businesses start, they do quite well. Some businesses do quite well, but there's a period of time where they're moving from being small, successful businesses to being large businesses. And that is the messy middle. That's where everything breaks. That's where nothing seems to work. That's where the people that were helping you achieve so much before, seem not to be able to do the same anymore. So that's what I do. I help businesses walk through that. So that's the messy middle, Savannah. I hope I explained it clearly.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, so let's start with this, right? So the session today.
You haven't answered my last question. What is something we can find about you on the internet?
On the internet?
Yes.
I play video games. I'm an avid video gamer. So I have this trick where I go into where people are playing, and I want to play, and they'll be like, "Oh, this old dude," and I just take their money, but it's okay.
You are as young as you want to be.
All right. Okay. So let's start with this. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So today we're going to talk about why be an entrepreneur. I think there's a rising. I mean, there's a groundswell. People are getting very interested in the whole entrepreneurship space. The startup culture, it's taking Africa by storm, and every day more and more people are going to look. I want to do my own stuff. I want to be an entrepreneur. And so this is really about taking people through what you need to consider before you go down this path, or even if you're already on this path, to kind of think through this stuff. I will start with a caveat that I feel that not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur, not because you're not smart, not because you don't have the skill sets, but for some people, you can be a really, really well-paid employee. You can make a lot of money working for people. The skill sets you have can make you a lot of money. While for some, it's being an entrepreneur. Okay, right. Now, when we think of entrepreneurs, normally, when people talk to me and say, look, I want to be an entrepreneur, I'm like, oh, right. Like, oh, they mention the usual suspects, they talk about Mark Zuckerberg, they talk about Mr. Amazon himself, they talk about Elon Musk. Everybody thinks like, oh, wow, this is what I want to be. If I'm, when I start my entrepreneurial journey in a couple of years, I'll be on the Forbes list. This is who I am, right? And why do we think of these guys? It's because of three things, right? We think they are pretty smart, even though this guy has his tongue sticking out, but that's supposedly one of the smartest man who has ever lived. We think they have a lot of money. Well, they do have a lot of money, or they do have a lot of money. And we think like ghosts in power that they have power, they based on, what they have, how smart they are, the business they run, that they have influence, right? That's what we think they are. That's what we think entrepreneurs generally are. But the question to ask is, are those guys representative? Are they like everybody else? Are they like every other entrepreneur, right? Or are they outliers? Are they not the normal? How many entrepreneurs get to live the life or make the impact that these guys have? That's one of the first questions to ask. So because when people say they want to be entrepreneurs and they're thinking about certain things, they're thinking about guys like that, or even maybe guys who are not as successful as that, but who are still significantly successful, right? But that's usually the assumption, things that's driving this whole entrepreneurship journey. But let's look at some numbers, right? So I got these numbers from WeTracker. They have something called the Better Africa Report. And it says they tracked 500 startups since from 2010 to 2018. And in that period of time, 271 of those startups shut down. Only 229 active. So basically there was a 54.20% failure rate over 9 years from 500 startups. Cool. Yes. And there's another piece of data that's not here, which says over 20 years, over 10 years, that 80% of businesses that start in a particular year would have shut down in 10 years' time, right? Okay. So, so that's there's that general belief. And, this nice graph shows how, year on year, up to like the 7th or the 8th year, the numbers of companies that failed increased, that they increased. So this tells us what? This tells us like, look, entrepreneurship itself is not all, it's not like, the stories read about. Yes. There's something called the TechCrunch effect. So TechCrunch, for those who know, is a technology blog out of the US that celebrates startups. And it talks about how a 21-year-old, 18-year-old, 25-year-old raised $100 million, raised $500 million, has a company that's worth $1 billion. So, there's that, which is great. But, it doesn't talk about the failures, about the amount of work that you need to put in to get to where you need to get to, right?
Right.
So, sorry.
All right.
Yeah. So let's ask the question, what is entrepreneurship, right? I mean, we've spoken about, all of this, the people we think are entrepreneurs, we looked at numbers. So what is entrepreneurship, right? Entrepreneurship is the pursuit of opportunity without regard to resources currently controlled, right? It's the pursuit of opportunity without regard to resources currently controlled. Entrepreneurs are people who do a lot with a little. There are people who, can survive in a famine. They get things done. This next slide talks about who's an entrepreneur. And I've tried to use statements from people that in my head kind of make sense, right? So this is by a guy called John Buxton, who says, who's an entrepreneur? He says, every time you want to make any important decision, there are two possible courses of action. You can look at the choices that present themselves and pick the best available action and try to make it fit. Or you can do what the true entrepreneur does, figure out the best conceivable option and then make it available. So entrepreneurs are people who make things happen out of nothing. So to be an entrepreneur, so you want to be an entrepreneur, it's not about, look, I want to do this, but this is not available. No, entrepreneurs don't believe in things being available or not available. I've worked in 2 or 3 startups. I've worked with some amazing founders, some amazing, and I mean amazing founders. These guys are people who don't seem to understand the meaning of the word impossible. You know, I mean, when everything looks like it's dead and buried, they will still be like, that's still like the Energizer Bunny, like, oh no, we could do this or we could do this. Or when you hear them speak about opportunities or things they want to do, and you're thinking to yourself, look, dude, we don't have the resources for that, but the guy is already thinking bigger than you, you know. And I guess that's what makes entrepreneurs, that ability to say, look, what is the best conceivable option, and just make it available, right? Rather than the other way. So for most people on this webinar, I want to ask a question: why do you want to be an entrepreneur? You know, for some people, are you bored, or are you underutilized? You know, you're probably working. Maybe you're working somewhere and you're thinking to yourself, I could do more. You know, I see what my bosses are doing, and I think I can do better than this. You know, is that it? Yeah. You know, that's very common. I used to think like that all the time too.
Sorry, sir.
All right. So the other one is, are you looking for work-life balance, right? Are you looking for greater control of your time? You know, there's this feeling that, you know, if you're an entrepreneur, you get better control of your time. Wrong. Because when you're an entrepreneur, there's no time. Look, it's kind of like the way work is going on during this lockdown, during the COVID period. Usually you would go to work from 8 or 9 till 5 or 6, and that's it. Work was done. But now, you know, work is all the time, you know, because there's no closing time. For entrepreneurs, there's no closing time. So when people tell me they want to be entrepreneurs because they're looking for work-life balance, it's possible if you're looking for a lifestyle business, but you're not an entrepreneur, you're just a lifestyle business person. You know, entrepreneurs, you have no time. There's not enough time in the day for you. That's the truth. Do you want to make more money? I mean, do you want to be a big baller? You want to have the big house, the big cars. The truth is, the likelihood of you making a lot of money as an entrepreneur is iffy.
Don't scare them, please.
I know, I'm being honest. It's iffy. Like there will be home runs. You know, it's like a curve, right? There'll be so most people, you'll be in the middle. You will make a good life. You know, you'd make money that gives you a good life, right? About the same money you would make if you worked in a good business. For a couple of people will make exceptional return. I mean, and there'll be exceptional people. There'll be the Dangotes, the really, really rich individuals. But a lot of people will also not make much money. And that's the truth, right? And then you think you'd make a great CEO. Do you think you get people to deliver results? So another thing is, you know, people tell me they want to be entrepreneurs because, you know, they think they know how to make people get things done. Right. So we've been an entrepreneur. You end to be you're not going to be anybody's boss, really. Like basically everybody's going to become your boss. You know, your customers become your boss, your staff become your boss, if it's something that's regulated, you know, the regulatory authorities become your boss. So you end up being chief servants, right? So it's really also not about being bosses. Now, I'm not trying to scare people, right? I'm going to talk about the good stuff. So I'm going to talk about the good stuff. But I really need, you know, to understand, look, so basically, if the reason you want to be an entrepreneur in the first place isn't, and again, caveat, there will be people who start businesses for some of these reasons and go on to be very successful.
Yeah.
You know, that's you know, there are people that just want to make money and they will make money. It's anything I say here is not absolute, but you know, for every rule there are always exceptions. Okay, and you could be the exception, right? So are these the reasons why? Well, they are not bad reasons. You know, I would like to make more money. You know, I'd like work-life balance. But for me, in my opinion, from people I've met, people who've done exceptionally well, of course, they also want to make money. They also want to be CEOs. But usually is that they wanted to do something different. They wanted to do something different. Look, it's not about, so when I'm talking about different, I'm not talking about maybe they want to build rockets, they want to be Elon Musk, or, you know, they want to relocate people to Mars. No, but it could be something small. They don't just do something different. Look, I want to run I want to run a delivery business, but I want my delivery business to be something that is, very, very customer focused, unlike most of the businesses I currently. There's a chap here in Nigeria who started a business a while ago. What's his name again? Femi Otedola. And the reason he started his business was he used to order diesel for his generator, right? He used to have people bring diesel to his house. But they used to come in these really, really old trucks. They used to leak diesel all over his house, right? And he thought to himself, look, come on, it can't be that difficult to have, diesel trucks that don't leak, that don't, mess up my compound, right? So he started his business from that perspective, like, look, I will buy very nice diesel trucks that will not litter people's houses. And from that, went on to build one of the biggest oil and gas businesses in Nigeria. So it's really about doing things different. And something you should be passionate about. Why do you need to be passionate about it? Because the likelihood that you make more money from being an entrepreneur than from a good career, like say in investment banking, is very slim. It is possible, but it's not the norm. So you want to be passionate about the reason for being an entrepreneur, so that even if you do not do as well as you intend to intentional financially, you would have made an impact. You'd have known, look, I said this, I thought this, and I made it happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my question for just a reflection that people should reflect on before we move forward. So is, what would it be? So there are two images on this. There's to the left of me is the entrepreneur who has her head in her hands, and to the right is the employee who's smiling, who gets paid salary at the end of the month, and doesn't have to worry about diesel and stuff like that. So it's just to think through that, like, look, am I in this to make money? Am I in this for work-life balance? Am I in this? Maybe I should be on the right, But if I'm in this to really make an impact, to do something different, and possibly get supernormal returns, the kind of returns that will make your granddaddy happy, and that, maybe then you should think about being on the left, okay? So first of all, think about that, all right? Now, having thought about, look, do I want to be an entrepreneur or not? Let's talk about what type of entrepreneur do you think you are, okay? Because entrepreneurs are, you're different. Depends on your reason, your rationale for wanting to be an entrepreneur. So there are 4 types of entrepreneurs. We have what we call the innovator. We have what we call the freedom seeker, the opportunist, and the legacy builder. Now, all of these guys, it depends on why the business was started. So as we go through it, I want you to think about which of them resonates with you, okay? So we have what we call the innovators, right? So these guys start their business out of, knowledge, innovation, and love for what they do. And they believe wholeheartedly that passion is a crucial requirement for success in what they do. Innovators would rather spend all their day doing what they love and not actually operating the business. So a lot of the people that we see that people really are passionate about are actually innovators. They are people who think, look, things are working in a particular way, but I think I can make it better. Okay. So do you think you're an innovator? Is there something about is there something about the business you actually are doing or the business you're trying to do that you think is innovative? And innovation doesn't necessarily mean you're a rocket scientist. It just means that you're trying to do something a little bit different. So these are innovators. You are very passionate about the product. Everything else pales in comparison to the product. Those are innovators. The second type of entrepreneurs are freedom seekers. And we spoke about them a little while ago. These guys start their business out of a need to set their own schedule and above all control their own destiny. I don't want to do all that 9 to 5. I don't want somebody screaming at me and setting work for me. I just want to make enough money to enjoy the kind of lifestyle I want to have. I want to be able to, post-COVID, jump on a plane, go to Madagascar, go to Kenya, go to Ghana, go to wherever, the Maldives, just, maybe I work for 3 or 4 months. I have friends who, I have a friend who's a drop shipper. So a drop shipper is basically someone who goes to a site like Alibaba and takes pictures and takes, and looks at products on Alibaba and puts it on Facebook, on Instagram. And when people place an order, they pay him, and then he buys it uses their money to buy it from Alibaba and delivers to them, and he makes a spread. So he works from anywhere, and that's what he does. He doesn't have an office. He works You know, he works from everywhere, and he's able to make enough money monthly to live a pretty decent life. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. That type is the opportunist, right? And you know, this picture of this guy trying to steal the ball from the other guy in the basketball match is kind of talks about what it is. This guy is the entrepreneur who spots a money-making opportunity, gets buy-in, and gets out at the right time. This is the for hopefully people can get upset. This is the typical African businessman. You know, is like, look, yeah. Well, or maybe I should.
One of them.
No. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But if I saw an opportunity, I would take it. You know. So this is for you. Like, look, I want to make money, right? If money is look, I just want to make money, and there's nothing wrong. I like people who are very clear about why they're in business. You know, I mean, some people will tell me, "Well, I want to make a change," but dude, you want to make money. I can see in your eyes that you want to make money, right? So this is really for those kind of entrepreneurs who they love and excel at marketing and interacting with people. They are usually very people. They have a long Rolodex. They know everybody, you know, and these are the kind of guys that also do a lot of government contracts, you know. So this type of and then there's a legacy builder. There's these guys who are entrepreneurs who start businesses that can be passed down to their children. They're building businesses, you know, because they that's their way of living their mark on history, and they're usually very practical about it. They're very, look, I want to build a business right. Okay, so these guys are more company builders. Now, so you said you want to be an entrepreneur, right? So which are you? Which do you think you are? Do you think you're an innovator? Are you passionate about something? Is there something that you? I know someone who is passionate. She's passionate about dreadlocks, right? And so she spent a lot of time. You know, she has her dreadlocks. She used to make her own hair products, and then she started a dreadlock studio here in Lagos. And so her business is, you know, helping people make. She's passionate about it. She's an innovator. You know, so it's not really about whether you're coding or you're building stuff. It's, you know, so she's an innovator. Are you a freedom seeker? You're tired of people shouting at you all the time? Are you an opportunist? There's nothing wrong with being an opportunist. So these opportunists are usually ones that are multiple. There are multiple businesses. You know, that friend of yours who, when he introduces himself, says, "Oh, my name, and here are my cards." Not here's my card. Here are my cards. He has like
the jack of many trades, but a master of none.
Oh, hey, well, he does, you know, just and then the legacy build. So which one are you? Yeah. So I want you guys to think about it. Which one are you? Think about it and just imbibe that. All right. So that's the second factor I want you to think about. Now the last factor is, now that you've said, look, this is I want to be an entrepreneur. I know the kind of entrepreneur I am. How do I lift off? How do I get to where I want to get to? Okay, so this is the thing first, right? If you are most definite that you want to be an entrepreneur, and you're very clear, you know, what our entrepreneur is, the first question is, what is your end game?
Yeah.
Where are you going? You know, what do you want to achieve? I feel that a lot of times, right? So there's this thing about what makes a genius. Who's a genius? A genius is basically someone who does simple things exceptionally well. You know.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I'm not even talking about in an academic sense. You know, there are some people who we call them geniuses at playing the piano. The piano, I don't know if it's a simple thing, but a lot of people play it. But some people play it a lot better than others, right?
Right.
Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, footballers, LeBron James, basketballer, you know, these are people who are in their field, who are geniuses, but they do things that everybody else does, but they do it much better. So be clear about your end game. What are you going to do much better? What is it about your business? What do you want to achieve? You know, what is it? A lot of people are into business without a big picture, you know, without a big picture. So, okay, so someone starts a true story. Two people start a barbing salons just to cut hair, right?
Yeah.
And one of them from day one told me that, look, Wale, I want to be a franchise. I want to have over 100, You know, I don't want to be a barber. I want to own a franchise. I want to have like 100 barbering salons across the country, you know, and you know, and then be focused more on the marketing, the creating of a brand. And this is a young, very young person, right? And the other person says, like, I want to have a barber. I want to be a barber, you know. And obviously, one of them, all things being equal, might end up being more successful than the other person because it's very clear about the end game. Okay, that's number one. Number two, own your operating realities, right? So a lot of times I listen to entrepreneurs who tell me, oh, if I was in the US, if I was in the UK, the matter is, oh, you're not, one. Two, you're here. And so you need, there are two, there's something called external realities and internal realities in businesses. So an external reality is things outside your control. You have no control over it. There are things that are, so for instance, you could be, okay, so recently in Lagos, which is where I stay, there are like 3 or 4 motorbike hailing companies, Go-Karter, Max. These are guys who you want to get somewhere, you use your, like a Uber, you call a motorbike, and they come pick you up. And then the government of Lagos State decides that these things are illegal. That's outside your control. There's nothing you can do about it. It's your reality. So what are you going to do? You know, don't spend the next 3-4 months moaning about it. It's not going to change. You know, well, even if it changes, it's not within your control, right? And then there are internal realities, which are things you can change. You know, so you need to own your operating reality. You need to be very clear. These are the things that I can't change. There are things I can change. And then the things I can change, I'll try my best to change it. And then you move on, right? Be clear about where you are, why you are here. You know, you've got to look, kind of like the guy looking at his compass, like, look, where am I going? How do I get there? What are the short steps? You know, entrepreneurship is about the long view and the short view, right? So the long view is I want to get there. The short view, these are the tasks, these are the small things I need to do to get there, okay? If you're not careful, because the truth about the matter is, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, you get stuck in day-to-day tedious activities. You know, you spend more time rowing than steering, you know. And if you're not careful, you get bogged down in the itty-bitty things. You're unable to look up and say, look, where am I headed? You just have to make time. That's the honest truth. Focus on customers who will buy. Focus on customers who, look, the most important thing for an enterprise is not even, a lot of people say, look, I need to raise money. It's not money, it's customers. It's customers. If you can find customers.
New perspective, because everyone always says the most important thing when you're starting an entrepreneur or even pitching your venture is funding. So for you to say, looking for customers who will buy, I guess finding your niche is something, but finding customers who will buy, I've never heard of that. So
I'm a realist. I'm an entrepreneur with experience, and I'm extremely realistic. So this whole raising capital-ish thing, I love it, but it's pretty new. And there have been businesses that have been here before the VCs and the private equity firms got here. So everybody I speak to now is in the business of raising money. Yeah? You're in the business of raising money. No, you're not in the business of raising money. You're in the business of selling to customers. A lot of businesses, so let's separate the whole tech startup thing with entrepreneurs who want to build business. Okay? You know, when you're doing private equity, you're doing VC, so what does private equity do? What does it do for you? It's putting you on steroids pretty quickly, so you can lift heavy weights very quickly, right?
Yeah.
Right. But even if you don't do steroids, right, you will get to that weight level. It just will take you a longer period of time, right? And even for those, even for VCs and private equity guys who are going to give you money, I know that they look at traction, right? So they're very concerned about, okay, so before you come to us for money, what have you done? Have you built something thick? Have you even onboarded 1 or 2 or 3 clients? You know, thick, you know. So focus on customers who will buy. A lot of people will say, look, oh, I've got this amazing new solution and I'm chasing XYZ Bank or ABC beer company. So the truth about the matter is those guys, everybody is chasing those guys. And at the beginning, you're such a small business, it will be difficult for you to break in. Focus first on businesses who will buy from you. Once you have a track record of having sold to people, you can sell to other people. Okay? So that's my own position. Focus on customers who will buy. It's not a very popular opinion, but it's a practical opinion. Okay? Build the best possible team within your budget, within your look. So entrepreneurs, the story of that lone wolf entrepreneur, that single guy that put the world on his back and makes it happen, usually
The one who did it himself from the start.
yeah, usually results into things like high blood pressure and stuff. You really don't want you don't want that for yourself. It's the truth. I have young entrepreneurs who already have, health issues. And the funny thing is, it seems to be a thing of pride. Oh, I pulled an all-nighter yesterday. I haven't slept in 3 days. That's foolish. That's being foolish. No, really, it is. Because you will burn out. You will build a business that you will not enjoy. I know entrepreneurs who hate their businesses, who've lost their health to their business, who've lost their relationships to their businesses, right? So look, from day one, you build a good team. If you can't afford them, if you can't pay for a good team, find 1 or 2 people that you bring in and you give them some sort of, look, it used to be back in the day, that look, you had to own your business 100%.
Yeah.
For someone who can share the load with you. And I'm not talking co-founder, I'm talking build a team. Look, if you're great at a product, but you're not great at marketing, you need to sell. You go and find someone who's great at marketing and say, look, dude, can you join me? You don't even have to do it full time. You can be working wherever you are, but I know that with your understanding of marketing, even a quarter of your time here is better than me going to go and pay for what I can afford. And I give you some money, and I give you some shareholding in this business. Build the best possible team, because remember, what you're trying to do is build a really, 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 really good business. So it's not about 100% you, okay?
I think something I can add on to that last point is ensure that you have chemistry with the people on your team as well.
Or you're better.
Everybody has to be looking at the same vision, because you could have a team and nobody's interested in what the end goal is aside from getting money.
True.
So if they don't share the mission and the vision, it's definitely going to fall apart.
Oh no, that's so true. A lot of businesses are falling apart because there was no alignment between the guys driving the business, right? So again, you just have to be very careful about who you choose. It's usually advice. The advice usually is if you're going to bring someone into your team, especially at a ownership level, that you do that with someone you've worked with before. It's because you have an idea. Sometimes people bring in friends, but it gets messy.
Yeah.
It gets messy, because, with friends, it gets messy, right? So I know some siblings who are in business together, and and they're doing well. I mean, like I said, for every rule, there are always exceptions, but it gets messy. So it's either you've worked with this person before, or somebody who you truly, truly trust has worked with that person before. Because there are some things that the person's CV or what the person has done will not tell you. They will not tell you what kind of character he has. He'll not tell you what kind of work, what kind of attitude to work he has. It won't tell you whether this guy is someone I can trust. Exactly. So you need to find the money. I put finding money after getting customers, because sometimes getting the money takes time. So how do you find the money? There's usually the FFF, family, friends, and fools. Yeah. So if your family and your friends cannot put money in your business, it says something about you. You get, it means either they don't think, maybe you've, shown them that you're not to be trusted, or they don't think you're capable enough. So if your family and friends are not putting money in your business, you need to have a sit down and tell them, look, why aren't you guys putting money in my business? What have I done? And so you can fix it. And then, of course, obviously, from day one, if you're finding the money from day one, you need to have, and if you're going to VC, private equity fund route, even if you're even trying to build a track record to be able to go to the bank, you need to be keeping good records. So it's very critical. And there are so many free apps online now that you can even use to keep records of what you've spent, how much you've made, who you sold to, so that when you're speaking to the money people, you can give them records. Have a bank account. Don't put the money into your personal bank account. If you're selling to people, don't put in your personal bank account. Open a company bank account. Even if you don't have a registered company yet, open an account that only, even if it's in your name, that you only pass business monies through. Because the banks, if you're going to go to a bank to get money, they are not clairvoyant. They're not like they didn't go to school with Harry Potter. They can't see what you've done if you don't give them details, if you don't give them something that they can work with, whether they can give you the money or not. Okay. And then most importantly, you need to start moving. You got to move fast. You can't sit on an idea for 6 months, 7 months. I have people who've been telling me the same idea for like 2 years. And I'm like, look, when are you going to start? Just start.
I know 5 years old.
Yeah, come on. Just start it. It's getting old already, right? Just start it. Okay. And finally, what's your next step? So you want to be an entrepreneur. You're sure you want to be an entrepreneur. You've identified the type of entrepreneur you want to be. And we've kind of spoken about the things that are important to get in there. What's your next step? What are you doing now? What have you done? What's your plan? Okay. What's next?
Right.
So Savannah, that's
yes.
me.
It's fascinating how you've really articulated that into very biteable and digestible points. What I've gotten so far is you've talked about self-awareness, most important, because this just doesn't apply to the business. If you want a successful business, you need to be self-aware and you need to know how to apply servant leadership. So if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead others in the end. And it's remarkable. I mean, you haven't said anything about entrepreneur leadership, but these steps have really applied to that concept. Okay. And I think it applies it's multifaceted. It applies more than just, having a venture and finding ways to maneuver around that.
Sure.
So we have other questions.
Okay.
From the audience. And the first one is, does one have to know everything? Most of the things in the field, he or she wants to pursue entrepreneurship. How do you know you're ready to start a startup?
So you don't have to know everything. Look, like I said, people, I tell people this amazing thing. So one of the things I try and do is I ask people to, when they're speaking about startups, I ask them to go online and search for what Amazon looked like when it started, what the website looked like, what Facebook looked like when it started, right? Yeah. It looked crappy, okay? So you don't have to know everything. What you just have to be clear about is, what is the problem I'm trying to solve, okay? What is the solution that I want to give at this point in time based on my understanding? As time goes on, your solution will evolve because you will learn more. You will learn more from engaging with the market. Look, you can be like my friend who's been planning to start a business for 2 years and who's been doing all sorts of research, or you can start. Look, yeah. And when you start, you will learn.
Yeah.
So you want to be an entrepreneur? Start. Look for your first customer. Build a product and look for your first customer. The feedback is amazing. That's what will let you know if you can go on or not.
On that note, somebody says, yes, Wale, I agree. Entrepreneurs should focus first on customers who can buy and not venture capitalists who can provide funds. You need to get paying customers if your investors are going to be able to get any returns. So thanks for highlighting that.
Thank you.
Next question is, what's your take on Asian businesses that work with extended family, but it doesn't get messy? Is it messy with the Africans only?
Okay, right. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, so I'm not very familiar with the Asian culture. I also think
Right.
but so I don't want to make assumptions about cultures I'm not very familiar with, beyond watching the movies, right? But I know
Right.
Africa, we are not, how can I say this sensibly? Okay. We are not the most respectful of boundaries as a culture. So you're my brother, it means I feel like I can get away with murder with you, right? So
Right.
we tend to be a little extra. So
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the reasons, right? And again, a lot of times, what I've also noticed is with businesses that started by a father, passed on to the son. Sometimes the kids are not exactly trained or ready or want to do the business, but they are pushed in. So I think, from my perspective, a lot of the businesses because it's very hard. I don't know about most of Africa, but I'll talk about Nigeria specifically. It's very hard to find second, third generation businesses that are owned by Africans, right? And it's because, we don't build structure that can survive outside the family. So my son must be the next chairman, must be the next managing director. Not necessarily. Like, I own the business. Your son owns the business. He doesn't have to go and mess it up. He can sit at home, he can go do something else and, gets paid a salary or something. So maybe that's it. I don't know. Savannah is laughing. She doesn't agree with me.
Next question is, I have so many ideas for businesses, which I'm confident will succeed, but I don't have the courage to pursue any of them, mostly because of fear of failing and losing a guaranteed source of income. What advice do you have for me?
Okay, so many ideas, not good. One idea, good, right? So I think what you need to do is, like, being an entrepreneur doesn't necessarily mean you have to stop working. It doesn't mean you can't be an employee at the same time. That's the honest truth. A lot of businesses were started as side hustles, right? So I think what you need to do, at least to even break your phobia of failure, is to look at the list of businesses you have and say, look, which one do I think can I start without leaving work? Which one? I will focus on these 100% for a year, right? I will not try and after 3 months start something else. So just choose one, right? And look at it and say, look, okay, this is going to cost me what, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 to execute. Put the money together and execute it. At the worst case scenario is make sure it's something you can live with if you lose the money. At the worst case scenario, 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the line, if the business hasn't gone beyond, you've learned what not to do. You bring that learning into your next business. That's why investors like entrepreneurs who've done something before and haven't succeeded well, but who've understood what mistakes they made in the previous ones, right? So start something, choose one, don't leave work, because it's hard out there. Don't leave work and start one and just push it. And you can fund it from your salary. You can hire someone to do deliveries or whatever it is out of your salary. Okay.
Okay. Just before we continue, where can our audience find you? Because our Q&A is blowing up and we don't have that much time.
Okay. Sure. I mean, they can find me on LinkedIn by Wale Adisa. They can find me on Twitter. They can DM me on Twitter. It's also Wale Adisa. They can send me an email at engage@strategoscompany.com. So any of those 3 places. So check me on Twitter. Sorry, on Twitter is at Adewale Adisa, ADEWALE on Twitter. Yeah, on LinkedIn it is Wale Adisa, WALE ADISA. Or you can even send me an email at engage@strategoscompany.com. STRATEGOS company.com.
I think our host will just put it in the chat box and then we'll be able to copy and use.
No problem.
So that's for those of you, if we're not able to answer your question within the time that's left. We have a couple more to go. So I've been reading a lot about entrepreneurs, and
Okay.
I think I fit well into that description. What do I do to grow in that part as an entrepreneur within the company I work in?
Okay, so let me get this. So this person works in a company but wants to grow as an entrepreneur within the company.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are called entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's what he said. He's been thinking a lot about entrepreneurs.
oh, okay, entrepreneurs. Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. Okay, so I mean that's great. So the first thing first is there are two scenarios. One is a scenario in which you work in a company that encourages you know ideas from the staff and allow staff to push projects. So if you work in that kind of company, that's a lot easier for you in the sense that you look around the company and say, look, what do we do as a business? What do I think? What businesses are always happy about? What companies always want is if you can tell them, you can help them make more money, right? If there's a way you can help increase revenue for them. So if you look at the products you currently have or the processes that within the business, and you say, look, I think if we did this, this can work. Put together a business case. A business case, basically, so I can see myself as a CEO. When as a CEO, if someone walks up to me and says, look, this is how I think we can improve money. I think if you give me a budget of this, this can happen. So put together a business case and push it to someone up above the line who will take advantage. If you work in a business that doesn't encourage such, you need to find a way to get someone in power to listen to you, okay? And especially if you're saying that I will do this at no extra cost. I will do this without asking for an increase in salary right now. Nobody says no to someone
Right.
adding value, okay?
Yeah.
All right, I hope that answers.
Next up is, should entrepreneurship be about just impact? How can we make impact if we don't make money?
I didn't say you don't make money. I'm saying that. So if let me go back to my my slides. I said that if it's only about that, you can make money. You can say, look, I want to make money. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But the possibilities, let's be honest, the possibilities of making, so if you stay, I don't know what you do, what a person does, but if you stay and you work in an investment bank or somewhere where the pay is pretty good, or you work in an oil and gas company, the likelihood that you make more money over the course of your career than an average
Right.
entrepreneur is higher. Right. So if you're really smart, if you're really, a smart person, your everything, the likelihood that you make more money by being an employee is higher. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, it can't be about the money only. There's a likelihood that you make a lot more money, but what if you don't? So what I'm suggesting is make sure it's something you're passionate about. So even if the cash doesn't come in, you made an impact. It keeps you going.
I'm Kathy from Kenya, and I would want to know how to incorporate the business canvas model into a social enterprise idea.
Okay, Kathy, you know what? Send me that's very interesting. I've actually done some work around that, but maybe we should take that. Just send me an email, and I can share some things with you, because that would be like a whole session on itself.
All right, 2 more questions, and then we can wrap it up.
Okay.
In an environment where you need to know the high and mighty to access loans from banks, how did the common man who's passionate about being an entrepreneur ever get started without help from banks or microfinance firms?
Okay, so this is what I'm saying. Get customers. Look, banks are, I mean, people go all negative on banks, but understand this. Banks take money from you and I, and they have to make sure that they can return those monies to you and I.
Right.
Little small businesses do not have any form of documentation to prove to the banks that they are bankable, that you can give them money. Do you get what I mean? So you go to the bank, you say, look, I want $1 million naira, or $1 million, cedis, or whatever the currency is. And they're like, okay, show me something that says, one, that you actually have a business that generates enough to pay this back. That's number one. You don't have. You're afraid of opening a bank. You don't have a business registered because you don't want to pay taxes. You're not running your revenue through a bank. You do not have an accountant who helps you prepare your books. No how will the bank lend you money. You go with your private, your own personal bank account, and the guy is not sure if that money is salaries or is actually business revenue from businesses. So if you really, really want to get a loan from a bank, you need to first of all get money from friends, family, and fools, and start something small and get at least 1 or 2 or 3 customers. If you go to a microfinance bank or a normal bank and show I have these 3 customers, I make this revenue, it will be difficult for them to give you money. It's not possible.
Okay. Last question is, then we have several risks to be considered, starting from demand, technology, execution, and finally financing. We find certain risks cannot be influenced by entrepreneurial actions. How do we control all these uncertainties?
So it's on this slide. There are things you can control, and there are things you can't control.
Yeah.
You only operate in realities. That's the honest truth. There's nothing. Look, if it's something that you can't control, it means you're not the only one it affects. Right? So if you're not the only one it affects, then it is not a problem. That is how entrepreneurs think, right? Look, so currently I think here it's a dollar to 500 naira or something ridiculous like that in terms of, and if I start complaining about that as a reason not to do business, everybody in my country has the same reality, or everybody in my country who does what I do at my scale has the same reality. Maybe people who operate at a bigger scale might be able to use government influence, maybe, I don't know. But it means that everybody in my country at my scale, so it's not a problem. Work with it.
All right. Great. Thank you so much for that insight from today. Guys, this has been Mr. Wale Adisa, sorry. So yeah, thank you so much for being with us today. This has been Mr. Wale Adisa. And, I hope you guys have got an insight on what it's like to be an entrepreneur and what it takes to be an entrepreneur. If you want to connect with us, do check us out at start.aoueducation.com if you want to apply to AOU. If you want to ask any questions, admissions@aoueducation.com. And if you want to learn more about AOU, at aoueducation.com. And if you want to find Mr. Adisa on social media so you can ask him the questions that we didn't get to ask him today during the session, check him out on Twitter at Adewale Adisa on Twitter. LinkedIn is Wale Adisa, and email is engage@strategoscompany.com. Thank you so much. Is there anything that you might want to add? Any parting shots?
I think entrepreneurship is the way forward for us in Africa. I think we have a significant problem with creating jobs. The government can do it alone. Usually in any economy, 70 to 80% of the business of the economy should be driven by small businesses, and so that is us. So anybody who wants to start a business, please put your back into it. But I just need you to ensure that you have your ducks all lined up before you start it. Okay. Entrepreneurship is something that one should continuously think about, especially in these times. And the beautiful thing that I just need to add is the world is now a global world. We don't know after COVID, but before COVID it was a global market. So it meant that because you produce something here in Africa, in Kenya, in Cameroon, doesn't mean you can't sell it in the States, in Canada, in Spain, right? So you don't necessarily have to be limited by, I'm in an area where the revenue is low, where people's earnings are low. No. The good thing is if you're in somewhere where people's earnings are low, it means your cost of production is low, especially if you are selling somewhere where the income is high. So please, let's start, right? Let's start building businesses. Thank you.
All right. For those of you who are still with us, do not forget to take time out to fill out our survey and give us feedback on how the webinars are. We do this, I believe, every month, if not bi-weekly. And yeah, I guess I'll see you in the next webinar. Thank you so much, Wale. It's been a good time.
So much.
All right then.